What's up, everybody? Welcome to the 27th episode of Yes and Ask Me, Bexar Stage's improv theory and discussion webcast, podcast, video cast, talk show. What is this? Guys, put it in the comments. We don't know what it is, but we're doing it, and we've done it for since the beginning of May. We're happy to bring you the 27th episode. Today, we're talking about physicality, and to do that, I am going to speak to three of Bexar Stage's finest physical performers. I think you'll all agree with me. Please welcome to the screen my first panelist, my good friend, Clint Taylor. Clint Taylor, can you join us, please?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Hello.
Welcome back to the show. In a nice role reversal, I'll be asking the questions today. Clint, why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about your improv experience?
I've been doing improv since 2018 July. Mm-hmm. Coming up on 2 years, almost.
It's almost exactly 2 years.
From my 2-year anniversary.
Almost exactly, yeah. And what do you do?
Improv.
Improv-wise.
I jump around on stage, roll around, pull-ups. Yeah.
That's not what I meant, but that's okay. We will come back to all of that jumping around. Now, please welcome to the screen my next panelist, another Bexar Stage teacher and good friend. Please welcome Fálki. Fálki, you're on mute. Unmute and then say hi to everybody.
Hi. I'm unmuted.
Fálki, you look so bright and cheery. I love having you on the show. Why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about your improv experience and, background?
Yeah. Well, I just had my 3-year anniversary. So I was in the first class at Bexar Stage that started in May of 2017.
Went right when we opened, yeah.
Right when you opened. And I do improv with a few teams, including a team or two with these people. And I, too, like to bounce around on stage. I do not do pull-ups.
No, honestly, difficult. Our third and final panelist of the day is the very silly physical comedy of Andrew Hempfling. Andrew, join us.
Hey.
I was wondering how this was going to work. Now I know for a fact that this will be a physical show. Andrew, why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about your improv experience and then we'll get started.
Well, I watched a lot of improv in Chicago, and then moved to Texas, and then finally started doing improv in 2017, I think. And now I do most of my improv when I'm pretending to be an expert at my job.
You know what? Improv is so useful in the workplace. You have brought us to another topic that we're definitely going to do a Yes and Ask Me episode on.
Yes.
All right. So, guys, you guys in particular, a little bit more than me, are big physical improv performers. But let's introduce the topic of the day for me, Clint. Would you...
I'll take it.
I know you will. Talk to me about what it means to be... I mean, there's a little bit of an obvious element to this, but talk about physicality and improv, and get us started off with, why we're talking about this. Why is this a topic that we discuss when we're talking about improv?
Yeah, physicality and improv means being active on stage, using your body to communicate with the crowd more than just your voice, and it makes it more interesting for the audience to look at something exciting. In addition to, hopefully, you're saying exciting things.
Right. So less than your words is more like putting the character that you're playing or the scene that you're doing into your physical body.
Yeah. And I would think, I would go as far to say that physicality in improv is more than expressing with your face, but expressing with your entire body.
Cool. Fálki and Andrew, do you guys agree with that? Is there some part of physical improv or physicality that you in particular enjoy? Let's start there. What's fun about physical improv?
For me, physicality is that's where emotions are. And so I think Emotions was the other show that I was on. So all emotions exist in the body. And so being able to feel what's happening through the body and then express that through the body and not just with words is why I mean, that's what it is for me.
Okay. It's completely different than how I generally feel, but I love that you said that emotions live in the body. So like, what's an example of like where you feel an emotion in your body?
I mean, common people feel, if you think about where do you feel worry? Usually people will say, oh, I feel it in my chest or I feel it in my shoulders. I tend to clench my ass. I'm a butt clencher. Where do you feel happy? And if people tune in, they'll be like, oh, I'm smiling. I didn't even know it. Oh my God.
I just did. Yeah. You're right.
How do you feel love, and what does your body want to do when you feel like you love somebody? Like if I've been in love with Clint before on stage and my body wants to go, like I'm a magnet. I want
to be closer to him. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So, when we talk about the 4 tenets we talk about with improvised relationships, proximity and touch being 2 of them, that like when you're feeling some of that emotion that sometimes it just feels right to go to that person or to
go away.
Right.
That's feeling too. How do you feel fear, and how does it express through your body?
That's so interesting. I love that you said that. What about you, Andrew? I know you love being silly.
I do. Hey, and if it looks like I'm distracted and I keep doing like this, it's because my cat is doing activities right by me.
Hey, focus here, man.
Yeah, okay. I'm just gonna...
Okay, Clint, what do you like about being physical? We'll just move on.
Hang on. So the question was, what do we like about being physical? Well, okay, so improv isn't just about like saying funny things. And I think I see a lot of people kind of going into that where you'll see a lot of scenes of just like 2 people talking, and just like doing stuff is more fun than not doing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And but then like, I don't know, I always want to amp it up. My cat is screaming and I'm so sorry. I have very little focus. I can't focus on anything in my life.
That's just ADD, man.
Yeah, I know. No, but I just like at a base level, just doing stuff with your body just to make the stage a little more interesting. Obviously, like with touch and proximity, like you guys are talking about. But then like, man, you can really, I think the times that I've laughed the hardest when watching a show, any show actually, is when it's something physical happening. An example I can think of off the top of my head is this movie called Game Night, where there's this like running gag in this movie. It happened 3 times where there is a glass table, okay? And if there's an action scene, right, it's always during a fight scene, like people are fighting, there's a glass table, you expect that somebody is gonna fly through that glass table and get injured. But every time someone got thrown into this glass table, they just, I'm sorry. They just bounced off. The glass didn't break. Just like, they got hit in the face and they do like this twirl thing and then they just land on the table and they're just going, thunk. And it happened 3 times and I fell out of my chair laughing in the theater. And it's just a physical bit. For me personally, I just always laugh at physical bits, especially like anything involving falling. You can't convince me that there's something funnier than falling down.
That's great. Okay, so what I hear you saying is you think physical comedy is funny, so you put that in your body to give that to an audience.
Yes.
Right? That's what I hear you saying. Fálki, I hear you saying that's just where emotions are. And because you're an emotional performer, it filters through your body. So I think those are really, really different. One is like I want to be funny and I think this is what's funny, and one is I think this is what's true, and that's how I'm coming out. Clint, do you have a balance for
I don't
that?
have,
Like,
I have a different,
what do you like about doing
a different
physical?
style of physicality. And yeah, hearing Andrew and Fálki talk about what they enjoy about physicality, I see it so much in the way they play.
Completely, I agree with you.
Because Andrew does physicality to engage the crowd, entertain the crowd.
Yeah, 2 and 11.
Yeah, like you talking about the bit, you do bits, physical bits, and then Fálki is so expressive with hers. And I feel that the way I approach physicality is kind of like, it's weird to say, but it's like to impress the crowd with my physical ability, like climbing walls and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like Cirque du Soleil, where it's like, whoa, that's, I'm not that good, but I'm saying for a small improv theater, it's unexpected.
Yeah, okay. So I guess, we inadvertently sort of discussed like these different ways or reasons perhaps to utilize physicality. It's an unanticipated return of this beautiful conversation already. Is to impress the crowd and give them something different, to express emotion, and to make them laugh. I mean, I think all 3 of those are very, very valid and very different reasons. And I do find you guys to be really different physical performers.
And I do want to say, I think for all 3 of us, it's not that we're consciously doing it this way.
It's your style.
I can see it in your fingers when you want to climb something. Like it's going to happen that like the way that we physically do something, it's just going to happen naturally. Or like, you can even see it in the way that you guys talk with your hands or express something. Like it's just woven into us.
Yeah.
I think that comes back to, I think Clint said before we got started,
we've
all had physical practices prior to coming to improv, and the body, I was just talking to some lady today and she was like, I don't understand how you feel your body. And I'm like, whoa, because that's where I live. And I'm, like this is, that's where I live. And I feel that way when I'm with both of you guys, actually. When we're on stage together, I'm like, I'm with physical beings on stage, which is really nice. It can be, I have people I play with that are very heady, as you guys know, and it's fun anyway. But I love to play, well, yes, Clint's very heady, but I love to play with really like physical people.
Body-minded people, yeah.
And I love to play particularly with strong males, because because it makes me feel safer to use my physical self.
To really lean into those moments. You just touched on it, but all 3 of you guys have experience outside of improv doing physical activities, right? 2 of you have done martial arts. Fálki, you have done a ton of dance, and I was wondering what, if anything, you guys use from that training or that outside experience. Do you use any of that coming into improv? Fálki obviously does. But I want to talk to the fellas first and see if there's anything from your external life that you bring into improv from those physical activities.
For me, I don't think I have brought in specifically martial arts, which is my big physical background, my primary physical background. However, what that has done is got me in touch with my body. Like Fálki was saying, I can feel my body. I'm aware of it, and I feel comfortable. I think that's it. I feel comfortable using it to various extremes.
Would it be fair to say that you sort of like, in being in touch with your body, you know your own limits and you know what is going to be successful or unsuccessful? You know what you can attempt boldly with, what that perhaps something that's very simple for you to do would not be very simple for somebody else to do, but you can because of what? Like your
aware. I think body awareness and body control is what it comes down to for me.
Okay, that's good. Andrew, what about you?
Where do I begin? Okay, so
eyes up.
Yeah, so I've done a lot. I was really close with the people that I practiced martial arts with, like really, really close. And I think almost to the point where I almost define myself as a performer with who I'm on stage with physically. Like what can I physically do with the people who I'm like with at the time, and with being loosely like like we're in the same room. Just an example is like I don't know, I also tie like how I'm feeling emotionally to how I'm feeling physically. I always have. In practicing martial arts, so I've done like a lot of contact martial arts, like boxing, kickboxing, where you actually like hit people and get hit. But my favorite is wushu, which is like one of those exhibition ones where you go into the middle of the floor and then you like do all your kicking and punching and stuff, and then you get judged by judges. But a lot of that is like fight choreography. So a lot of what I was doing is fight choreography. And then, I'm sorry.
It's good.
I had to lock my cat away. So, no, and then, I don't know, just like in living your lives, like you're spending like years with these people that you're doing martial arts with, I can always like, I could tell like if somebody's giving off kind of like, I'm not having a good day type of vibe. And a lot of that would be just like, one time I remember I just like, we had like these foam swords that we like just had there. And I just threw a foam sword at him and started attacking him. And then after a while we were doing like, we spent like, it was actually 2 hours just hitting each other with foam sticks. And then it, I don't know, it just became really fun. That's just how I have fun, is doing physical stuff.
I relate to that. That's how I have fun, is pushing my body. I remember I went on a kayaking trip with my family, and everybody kind of got annoyed with me because I was rowing too hard. I love that. I love that idea.
Experience.
Don't push so hard. It's not a job, but like that's how I have fun. Is physicality. So that's my way to have fun on stage too.
Would you agree with that, Fálki?
For you, so for everybody froze, and I missed a lot of things, I think. But
don't worry, I was rambling for like 100 years.
Oh, okay. It was completely frozen out. I have no idea. I think for a long time, up until I hurt my knee that time on stage.
Yeah.
And I realized, oh wow, I'm 50. Awesome.
Oh, fragility. Yeah.
Damn it. Like being able to, I'm very flexible, and I'm still relatively strong. And so being able to do things with that in this body was really fun for me too. And the flexibility and like the ability to fall on stage, I think that to me is fun, whether I'm expressing emotion or not. So
falling is where it's at.
Falling is, and it is funny. I agree. If somebody falls, I'm laughing. And I'm also,
honestly, it's like 80% of the fail videos online. So
oh god, I love fail, or like, you know those videos where there's like a toddler on an air mattress and then an adult comes and like body slams it and the kid just goes flying through the air. Oh, I wish I could do that. I wish I could be the toddler. I have a question actually for
I want to make sure Fálki finishes her statement first.
I'm so sorry.
And then I'll come back to you, Andrew.
When Andrew was talking about physicality is funny. I laugh much harder when people are physical than I do when people are battling. I really don't care what you have to say. I want to see what your body's doing. You're boring me with your voice. Please fall down. That will be.
You just said the exact opposite of something that like Matt Hall would say.
Who I find very funny.
Exactly, but like very differently funny.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But often I'm like, oh God, please stop talking, fall down.
Please stop talking and fall down.
Yeah.
I love that so much. Andrew, what was your question that you had? I hope you didn't forget it.
Oh yeah, no. do you guys learn by doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like kinetic learning?
Yeah.
I'm not just that, but like for me, I've learned several programming languages. I can't watch a tutorial and then take in the information. I have to actually, work on something in order for me to learn it. And I think a lot of that, just that brain space translates into how we perform and how
that's really interesting. Would you say that perhaps your connection with your physical body relates to how you learn stuff?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Would you say, Clint, would you agree with that? Or
that
I see you mulling it over.
I am thinking about it. I've never thought about myself as a physical or however, I struggled to say anything in this because learn by doing is like the museum's motto. That's where I work. So I agree by corporate demands.
Well, we can explore that external to this conversation if you'd like some other time. But
both of you are teachers. How do you do you feel comfortable like having people do something first and then how do you teach? Do you just explain everything, or do you like, hey, let's try this and then work through it?
Well,
and there's probably more than two options.
Probably more, yeah.
I mean, primarily right now, I teach yoga.
That's very learn by doing.
It's a combination of learn by doing and learn by listening to me. Especially now that we're on Zoom.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah.
I agree though. From the teaching standpoint, with Fálki of like mini lecture and then you got to do it, and then mini lecture and you got to do it. So yeah, that combination of listening and doing. But yes, absolutely, physically engaging in the topic is necessary, and that's beyond. I mean, with improv, in improv teaching, you have to get the reps, and that's doing it. And then same with the kids I teach at the museum, they engage in the activity to really solidify the concept.
One thing that we haven't really covered yet, that I think is a good factor to consider within physicality is that players who are really physical, as compared to perhaps their teammates or other people that are on their teams, seem like they're making like really bold choices by choosing a big physicality, by jumping off of something or climbing something or utilizing the space a little bit more, throwing themselves on the ground, falling down, whatever. Those seem like such big choices. Is physicality, would we consider that a gift within improv to give that to our scene partners? Or do you consider that more of like a personal gift to yourself?
Huge gift for the scene partners. I remember several scenes with Matt Hall in particular of somebody edited the scene, we didn't know what we were going to do next, and so then me or another player would come out and do something real big without having any idea what it was, but we would just get on the floor and get in a weird position, and then Matt would name us. And so that was a gift from us to him of like, hey, here's something, and then he was given the gift back of naming it for us and the audience.
Amazing. Great. What do you think, Fálki?
Pondering.
Andrew, you are probably most recognizable to the viewers of our show and to the Bexar Stage community with your work in Die of the Beholder, right? You are one of the NPC characters. You play a lot of characters in one show, and you've got to differentiate all those characters. And you often do it with silly voices and big physicality and things of that nature. Are you doing that for yourself, for the audience, for your teammates? Where do you put that? Where do you think?
So actually, really quick to like go back to the other question really quick is I think it only serves the scene. It's only a gift if it serves the scene and the people who are doing it, like only if it's appropriate. Which then goes into Die of the Beholder, which I actually do think sometimes I tend to bulldoze and hog.
You tend to what?
Bulldoze and hog.
Bulldoze.
kind of because of that, because like, all right, so I freaking love like wacky characters. I grew up on like Three Stooges and Looney Tunes and Ed, Edd n Eddy, and none of that is even close to anything like in the real world. Like you ask people what they grew up watching, and a lot of them are like, I don't know, Boy Meets World, or I don't know, live action stuff. Like I had to watch like cartoons. And then how I go into a character, because I everybody knows I do like crazy characters. It's physical. I can only go into I have to define a character by their physicality first before I can do anything else with them.
Cool. Fálki, did you have a chance to ponder your thoughts a little bit?
I guess I think it's both. 'Cause honestly, it especially at the beginning, physicality was the only way I knew how to be on stage.
Yeah.
And it was even more like, this is how I express. And so here's me. This is just me. Here I am.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't about gifting. It was just about, this is how here you go.
This is me. Deal with me.
Yeah, pretty much for a long time.
That's
and fortunately, I played with two people who are very willing to deal with me.
In fact, most of them just like you in general.
Just weird, right? But I think now it's a little bit of both. Like it's, I've become a little more able to be in both places. Like this is me, this is how I play, this is how I'm gonna roll. And I can see it as a gift to others too. So now people who play with me, I think, have a pretty good package to mess with. When you first said, is it a gift to others? I was thinking about something slightly different, about how folks who aren't particularly physical and playing with them and finding where those boundaries are, like, because gifting somebody with, like, Clint and I were in a scene one time where I told him he had to do a handstand on stage. And that's a gift to Clint, because I know that he likes to be physical and he can do it without getting hurt, probably, right? But
the likelihood is better than if you gave that challenge to me.
or to Steve, who would probably try to do it.
Who would try and might hurt himself.
Right. So I feel like knowing who you play with and knowing what they're capable of, even if it's not about skill, but like strength, knowing somebody can take your physical being, and knowing what is a gift and what is kind of what's a pimp or a jab that will actually make somebody feel scared or more uncomfortable than they want to be.
Oh, absolutely. I think we covered that in great detail when we did our gifting episode, of the difference between gifting and really like pimping somebody into something that makes them uncomfortable to a point that they're not feeling safe.
And also I think recognizing physical boundaries, because I know physicality for me comes into proximity comfort. I'm pretty bloody comfortable being in very close space with people on stage. That isn't necessarily true out in the world, but on stage I'm pretty comfortable. That doesn't mean that everybody is. Like, I could push poor Matt to a state of, just because I'm willing to be
to get that close.
So I think that's a piece too of being.
Yeah, he'll try to step back and then you'll back him into a corner. While you guys were talking a little bit, right? We're talking, we've poked a couple of times some fun about, Matt, who's a very, like, I wouldn't say a super physical player, but is somebody who is very smart and witty, a great asset to his team in different ways. What are ways that you might say to help somebody who isn't as much of a physical player get in touch with their body and start getting more comfortable and like making some of those kinds of choices on stage? Is there anything that you would say to them, or about a way that they could practice or get into this a little bit easier?
I think the difficult thing is that all of us come with at least a decade of intense physical training in some field. Mm-hmm. So that's not applicable advice. But talking about Matt specifically, again, he did this. There's 2 times that he's made me cry from laughter. And that was when he was a sea anemone, and so
we talked about this literally on Wednesday. I love the sea anemone moment.
He just embodied being a sea anemone. He got down.
He was crouched
with his hands. Hilarious and not hard, not physically risky at all. But it was something outside of his box that was very funny. And another time, the highlight of one show was he said, "I'm the witch doctor," and like did this weird thing with his hands, and that was it. He just put his arms out, said something in a weird voice, and that was the highlight of the entire show that everybody was talking about. So just do a little bit. You don't have to hurt yourself. You don't have to put yourself at risk. Just put your arms in the air. Yeah, that's the
great. That seems like something that people could use as like a baby step to get back into it, or to get into that is don't break yourself. You don't have to be Clint level physical. You don't have to dance as well as Fálki does, or use your wacky frickin' Gumby body the way that Andrew does. Just do a little bit. Do your version of a physical. Okay. Andrew, you got something?
Yeah, 2.
Bring
One
it.
is not as helpful as the other. Not
Bring
helpful
them both.
first.
I want to hear them. We'll decide what's helpful.
First one, practice your faces in the mirror.
That's such a great idea.
I do that all the time. Like whenever I'm like brushing my teeth, I'll just be like, I don't know, I'll just mess with my face. Just mess with your face. And then the other piece of advice is shout out to Philip J. Bernhardt, because he does this sometimes, where he'll tell me like after a show where he did something, I think he was like maybe a dog or something, I don't remember. He was an animal. He sets up a little challenge for himself before, I think this is Phil. I hope it's Phil. Anyways, he set up a challenge before a show, like I'm gonna do this, or this with my body at some point during the show. And then he did it. And everybody knows Phil. He does physical stuff all the time, but also not all the time. Like sometimes he does physical stuff. So he kind of like toes his line. So yeah, like if you want to, actually this goes for anything. If you want to break into like a new type of performing, tell yourself you're going to do that before the show.
Okay. I think actually both of those pieces of information are real helpful, right? Clint says start small, do something very much within your capabilities, but a little outside your comfort zone. You're saying one way to do that is get comfortable with your face in the mirror. I think that's a great way to do it. That gets into some of what Fálki was saying too about, being in touch with your body, understanding what it feels like when you make a certain face and then what that maybe is projecting. And then also give yourself some goals and challenges and help yourself rise to the occasion, by dedicating a little bit of commitment to it. Fálki, anything to add about ways that people can start adding a little bit more physicality into their improv?
Before a show, unbutton your pants and get down on the floor and roll around.
Oh.
Whoa.
I like that, honestly. The unbutton your pants is the weird part, but like the rest of it, I think is really neat.
Oh, so it doesn't like squeeze your stomach, is what you're saying.
Yeah, because and it isn't, and I'm not saying you have to unbutton your pants in order to roll around the floor.
No, I understand.
But people walk around super contained and tight and not feeling their body. They're like walking around in their heads with everything contained and unbutton your freaking pants.
Let loose,
your body,
baby.
you don't have to keep them unbuttoned. You don't have to go on stage unbuttoned, but unbutton your pants and feel your freaking stomach when you breathe, and then fall on the floor and roll around a little bit. Because for me, it's more about we are disembodied creatures. Human beings nowadays are disembodied. We have no connection to our animal body. And so we need to allow ourselves to get into our bodies in order to bring our bodies on stage rather than just our heads.
Man, you guys all three come from like really different like physical backgrounds, and physical, how you project that on stage looks really different from each other. And now I'm realizing now that, you know, I love all three of you guys as very physical performers, but that you are strikingly different. And now I'm seeing why some of those things are true. Because I think all of you gave really different piece of advice, but I think they all work really well together, you know?
Yeah, I also think that everything that Clint and Fálki have said have also been 100% true.
Great. Yeah,
True.
I think so. Absolutely. I think those are all great pieces of advice. And, you know, Clint and Fálki are both teachers at Bexar Stage. And so we work on things like stage picture and choosing a position and getting comfortable with some of that a little bit. And Fálki, I know in her level 2 class has done a lot of body work with her students to get them more comfortable with their physical selves and that kind of thing. And I know, Andrew, geez, how many people would not watch Die of the Beholder if it weren't for you, I swear. I think there's at least one in the comments right now. So you, I mean,
this is why you practice faces.
There it is. Practice your faces. So I know that you guys are three of my favorite performers to watch. And I think a lot of what we've said today really encompasses why, because you're using, you know, this is another thing we've been talking about on this show. Everything kind of comes together right now. We're coming from a place of strength. You guys were all strong physical people before you started improv, and you're bringing that experience in with you, right? That's part of what's true about you and how you guys are able to utilize your bodies. So for people where it doesn't come as natural, there are ways to practice, right? Practice by getting into your body, unbuttoning your pants and really feeling how your body feels, working with your face and making that expressive and understanding how and what that communicates. As well as, you know, just throwing your arms in the air, doing something that's a little outside your comfort zone, but won't hurt you. And whether you justify it or somebody else justifies what that motion entails or means to the scene, that those can really be gifts to your scene partners. I think all of that has been really cool and transparent about how you guys in particular play. Is there anything anybody else has before we wrap up here today? We're almost out of time.
One question for everybody. What is a physical thing that you've seen on stage that made you laugh harder than anything else? I still have to think about this, so somebody else go first. Do you have a physical memory that you...
I'll start. There was one show, I think it was a key party. So I was on the back line. No, I was in the scene, I think, for it. And I was talking to, it might have been you, Andrew, in the scene. Yeah, it was. And it turned out we were on a first date, but that you were a child, but it was just because you had lied on your Tinder profile or something. And then Louis jumped on your shoulders, you know, again, because we understood that this was going to be a kid going on a date, and that it was going to be awkward and weird and uncomfortable. But it was like two kids on top of each other going on a date with an actual adult woman. And so I had to just play it straight. But I remember you and Louis stacked on top of each other in a chair trying to just be an adult. And it was the hardest thing in the world to try to keep together while looking at you be an enormous pile of childishness.
Yeah, that was fun.
Was real fun.
I think mine wasn't actually laughter, although I know laughter came, but it was more like, and it was actually Clint during Improv Royale, and you were, I don't even remember what the scene was about, but you were squatting on the chairs and lifting the chair and moving, and I was like,
yeah, where he was walking with his chair.
He was making the
chairs on his feet.
And I was like,
unbelievable.
I'm kind of in love right now. Yeah. Yeah, there have been a couple Clint ones where mostly it's like I'm half afraid and laughing and kind of in awe and like,
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think most of my Clint physical memories are me being impressed with Clint or me being totally afraid he was going to fall off the wall.
Right.
There's that Cirque du Soleil feeling that I'm going for.
Yeah. Thank you.
I admire that so much. I'm like, I took silk acrobatic silk for like a year and a half and thought that was the coolest thing. And now I don't have the upper body strength, but whenever you go up the wall, I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
Unreal.
Okay, mine was Silent Stupidity, one of the very first improv shows I've ever seen. That's a show that Brian Scribner does, and he doesn't say a word the entire show, so it's all physicality.
Yeah.
And he was in a cornfield, and he was afraid, and he was just running around the stage, expressing the entire story through his body and his face. And then he also was in a jet. Or like a cockpit with somebody he got on stage with him, just a random audience member, and he made the other audience member not talk. But you could see the entire conversation take place between Brian and this random audience member without any words at all because of the way they express with their face and their body.
Silent and stupid, the Brian Scribner way. Andrew, did you think of anything?
Yes, it's not an improv show; it's a play. And I'm not going to give too much away, but I laughed so hard that I almost threw up. And
I think I know where you're going with this one.
Yeah, it's not specifically a physical play, but it's mostly just like dialogue. And then at the end, someone's head explodes, and you don't expect it. And I remember I was actually worried that I peed my pants. I was actually worried that I was going to throw up.
Throw up and pee your pants. So you're saying it was because, so we've just narrowed, again, said three very different things is, that physicality can be really impressive. It can be really silly and funny. And what you said there is also really surprising.
Yeah.
And physicality can do all of those things. So I think there's a lot of really positive reasons to try some physicality in your improv. If it's not something you're comfortable with, do what Clint said and find something that's like accessible to you, that's more physical than you normally are, but you don't have to climb a wall and do a pull-up and hang upside down the way Clint does, or you don't have to walk with your legs all the way up in the air in a very funny fashion the way Andrew does.
Right.
And you don't have to roll all the way on the ground in a beautiful, very graceful way, the way Fálki does. But choosing something a little outside that comfort zone to spice up your improv. I'm going to let the show end there. You guys have been a great panelist. Thank you so much for talking about physicality from the seated position in your houses. Until we can get back on stage all together, Zoom improv is kind of the way the world works right now. And that means that all the theaters in your community, whether that's a stage production of Dostoevsky or Chekhov or a silly little improv theater like Bexar Stage, all of your theaters are suffering right now. So make sure you Google your local improv theater. Do me a favor on behalf of all of us and make a little donation to that theater, even if it's $5. Do something to support the local arts in your community. I promise they need it, and I promise that you're going to want them to come back. If you're in the San Antonio area, or you particularly like this group of weirdos, all of which who have feet.
Do you believe my fucking foot looks like this? What the fuck?
Honestly, it's the weirdest foot I've ever seen.
What the fuck is this foot?
But make that donation at bearstage.com. I'll make sure it's in the comments too. We appreciate you guys watching and spending your Friday with us. We appreciate it. We'll be back on Monday. Rick will be back. So if you have been missing him, so have we. And we'll see you guys again so soon. Have a great weekend.